You're listening to Blu Moves, your home for all things real estate, presented by Blu Realty.
Hey guys, this is John Darden with Blu Realty, and this is Blu Moves. Not to be confused with Blue's Clues or a cow mooing. Blu Moves. All things real estate, buyers, sellers, residential, commercial, investment, multifamily, you name it, we'll chat about it. Really, our aim in this is to add a ton of value and information to our people here in Lubbock, and really anyone in any city for that matter. Anybody that's interested in real estate. So thanks for joining us, and today is actually episode 1. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the home buying process. What are the steps? What needs to happen? What's the first thing to do? What's an appraisal for? Do homes pass or fail inspection? What do I need to watch out for? How much is this going to cost me? What's a down payment? Yada, 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 blah, 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 blah. And today we are joined by one of our top producing agents here at Blu, Kristen Young. Welcome, Kristen. Hello,
Hi.
Kristen. How
Thanks.
are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Tell everybody about yourself. The awkward question.
About myself. Well, I moved to Lubbock in 2002, so I've been here a while. What is that, 16 years?
Yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah, it makes me feel a little old. My son turned 5 today, so that makes me feel older, and I have a daughter that's 10, so we just kind of made Lubbock our home after I graduated college, and I stayed here raising my family. I got into real estate about 4 years ago, which is also crazy. Seems like I just started.
So this is year 4.
Year 4.
Yeah, goes by quick.
It does.
That's crazy.
That's good, though.
Yeah.
It means it's good.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt, no doubt.
Yeah.
Kristen's a rock star. She is, I mean, she's, like I said, she's top producing agent here at Blu and at Lubbock. And watch out, Lubbock. She's coming for you.
I am.
All right, let's get into it then. Let's just dive right in.
Right.
Whether you're a first-time home buyer, you're an investor, you've owned multiple homes before, you haven't bought a home in a while, we're going to walk through the entire process of what it looks like to purchase a home. So, Kristen, pretend like I am a new buyer. What's the first thing that I need to do?
You need to call me.
Call Kristen. Okay, check.
Yes.
Step 1, call Kristen.
Call me. Yeah. And then I like to sit down with you. If we don't have time, it can be a quick phone conversation, but I would like to follow up and kind of chat, see where you're at, see your time frame, really see what you're wanting, and then kind of give you the steps myself, because I feel like even if it's your first time or your 10th time, I like to be organized. So we kind of go through the steps in our initial meeting.
Okay. What are we talking about in that time?
We're talking about, first, are you planning on buying the house with cash, or are you wanting to finance? So I usually go through that. Usually people want to meet and they immediately want to start looking at homes, and we kind of have to back up a few steps to really see if they're ready to look right now, because
Right.
my fear always is that we'll go look, they'll fall in love with something, and then we can't move forward.
Okay. Because of financing?
Because we don't have a loan ready, or, mainly that.
Okay. So that really leads into the next step then?
Yes.
Which
you need
is?
to be approved with a lender.
Okay.
Or if you're paying cash, make sure you have your funds ready to go, especially in the market right now, like in spring, when, like this last week, I went and showed 3 homes, and by the time I got there, we couldn't show it because it was already under contract.
Right.
So we need to be ready and have that step done before we actually go out and look.
Okay. Do you have a preference over like lenders?
Yes.
Local.
We need local lenders. We need approval with local lenders, not the big dogs, like nothing that you can do from a link probably on Facebook or something like that. Somebody that you can actually talk to that has an office here in Lubbock that I can talk to. We have plenty of great local lenders, plenty to choose from.
And I think one of the things that's really important with that too, and not to, like, we don't want to be company bashers or anything, but your big dogs, one of the big ones like Quicken, Rocket Mortgage, you probably see commercials about that all the time. Not to say that they can't get it done, but like if Quicken screws up,
Who do we call?
who do you call? Your buyer doesn't have anybody that's a point of reference, point of contact. If somebody here in Lubbock messes up, you can drive to their office and chew them out if you want to, which I think is a pretty big deal. Plus, like, my opinion is some of your local folks can get you a better rate anyway.
Absolutely.
There are a lot of things that lenders can do right now. Lender credits. Some of your local folks can do some things like helping pay your closing costs for you, which we'll get into. a little bit later, but we're all about local.
Well, and I think because they know our market. If you're doing something national, I mean, Texas has different regulations that are, things that we don't have to do that at a national level they don't understand. So that kind of slows things down and makes it difficult to close.
For sure. That's a good word. Okay, so we've gotten approved with a local lender. We're approved. Then what are we doing now?
Then we can take our fancy little letter from your lender and go look at homes. Okay. So set up showings, look at, kind of get a feel for what you're looking. Sometimes when you put it on paper, what you're looking for, then you actually get in the home, you decide that's not what I'm looking for. So I always say like the first week, maybe not week, but first couple of times that we look, you're kind of ruling out and figuring out what you really want, what's a deal breaker and what's not. Right. You have to get in there to figure that out. Pictures can only do so much.
Is there like, I get asked this question a lot, I don't know about you, but is there like, okay, how many houses do I have to look at before I can?
You don't have to look at a certain number. I think it's good to look at more than 2.
No.
I mean, sometimes people fall in love with the first house, but I always think it's better to look at a few more to make sure that's the one.
Have something to compare to.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Okay, so we're looking at homes.
Rare.
We found the one we want.
Let's make an offer.
Okay, sweet. What does that mean?
What does that mean? What do we do? So we need to, I will provide you with what we know what you're approved for. We know the amount, so we know where we need to end up. Mm-hmm. Then we need to look at the market and see what the comps are saying.
What does that mean?
So we need to know what similar homes have sold for in that same area within the last year. Then I can kind of tell you or help guide you with what I think we should offer depending on our market, depending on the price range, location, how quickly we think it's going to move, things like that. So we put our offer in, and then negotiations hopefully start.
Okay.
I don't know how far we want to go with that.
Well, since it's the spring market, you brought this up earlier, spring, getting into summer markets, it's kind of the crazy time of year. What, from a buyer standpoint, is that good or bad for me as a buyer? A crazy market.
If it's good or bad?
Yeah. Like as a buyer. Like what do you tell a buyer in that like 150 to 250 price range where we know stuff's going to go really fast?
If you like it, we need to move on it.
And
we need to put an offer in.
Probably not going to get a deal on it either.
No, you're probably expecting to pay full price.
Sometimes over.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's a hard concept for a first-time buyer or someone that hasn't done this before. Even if you have, Lubbock's, I don't know about other markets, but that's pretty typical to go over to get the house, to make sure that's the one you want.
Right. I think one of the things too here in Lubbock that maybe some of our Dallas, Fort Worth friends that are watching this, it's different for us here. Like in Dallas, people will put clauses and special provisions. It's like, okay, we will pay up to $15,000 over the appraised price because you're gonna have literally 20 people putting offers on house. It's not that way here, no, but it's close. So that's a good word. Okay, so we made an offer and we got it negotiated. Now what?
Now we are entering into option period.
What is that?
Option period is usually, here in our market, we do about 10 days. You pay a fee of $100 to take the home off the market. During that time, we can get a home inspection done, pest inspection, and for any reason, or during that time, we like to, when we get the inspection report back, negotiate repairs. So that's your 10-day grace period. For whatever reason, you can walk away if you don't want to buy the home in the 10-day period, and you lose that $100.
Okay.
So that's different than earnest money.
Okay.
I like to explain the difference. So option is option fee, option period, 10 days, $100. The home is yours. You can get your inspections, think about it, negotiate repairs. After the 10 days is up, you have also written a check for earnest money, and that's like a deposit. So that's what keeps us under contract. That money goes to the title company and is basically holding this house as yours.
Okay.
Is how people kind of understand deposits rather than earnest money. So kind of
the same thing.
Same thing.
Okay.
You're putting money down to hold the house.
And that money eventually goes towards the down payment.
So if you go through and we're at closing, you'll be credited at closing for that $100 or whatever you put for your option fee and your earnest money. It goes towards the down payment.
So that money doesn't disappear?
No.
And
you're not giving it away.
Terminate during the option period, which is the whole point of the option period, is it gives you the quote-unquote unrestricted right to terminate.
Right.
And what I always tell people is it's like if you get cold feet, it doesn't matter. You don't have to have a reason.
Right.
Texas allows you to terminate within those 10 days for any reason whatsoever. You lose the $100, but you get your earnest money back.
better than losing all that money.
Absolutely. And so one thing about Texas contracts is they're super buyer friendly, extremely buyer friendly. Okay, so option and earnest. A little quick on that. Like that's okay. We're not going to get too deeply into that today, but now what?
So I mentioned during option, get the home inspected.
Okay.
I advise all my buyers to get a home inspection, just so we can see if anything needs to be repaired or if there's any red flags, something that's a deal breaker for you.
Okay.
Any damage, water damage, leaks, if the roof isn't insurable, things like that.
Okay. We're looking for the big stuff.
Yes. I mean, and I back up. I like to tell my buyers when we get the inspection report, we're not going to get a clear inspection report. There's going to be something on that inspection report, and you're going to think, oh my gosh, I can't buy this house. It's falling apart.
Right.
But it's not. So it's for your protection so that you know everything and anything about the house. And once you read through it, you realize some of these things aren't a big deal. It's from wear and tear. It's not a brand new house. And even on a new construction, you're going to have things pop up on that inspection.
Sometimes I feel like the brand new homes get more written up
Absolutely
than some of your older homes. But that's just
and they're usually small things, easy fixes.
Easy stuff. Yeah. Which, if you're a first-time home buyer, you tend to freak out about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's what we're here for.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. Okay, great. So inspection, negotiating repairs, then what?
Let's see. We are then waiting on the appraisal. The lender will order an appraisal to make sure you're, well, I don't know. How do you like to word appraisal?
So I would say
you said
the appraisal.
It earlier better.
Yeah, the appraisal is basically the bank isn't going to let you pay more than the home is worth.
Right.
And so there's always that well, what if we pay too much? Well, the bank's not going to let you pay too much. So they send somebody out, a third-party individual that is going to go out and
assess the value
of the home and make sure that compared to the rest of the neighborhood, size, upgrades, features, amenities, and all that fun stuff, that you're not overpaying for the house. Now, what happens a lot of times in a spring and summer market is that everybody jacks the price of their home up, and people are willing to pay it, and so they potentially are overpaying for a home.
The market hasn't caught up. Exactly.
So, for the fall and winter buyers and sellers, you're getting the benefit of the spring and summer push, whereas spring and summer folks, you haven't quite caught up yet. Anyway, that's discussion for another time. But sometimes it does price short in that instance. And I think you're dealing with one of those right now.
I am.
What do you do as the buyer? Like, what do I do? What should I be doing if it prices short?
Well, 3 options, I guess. You can either come up, offer to pay more cash. Has to be cash. You can't write that into your loan because that's the whole point of the appraisal is your lender won't finance more than the assessed value or appraised value. So you can either offer some more cash up front to maybe meet in the middle. We usually try to, in Lubbock, negotiate that. Maybe the buyer comes up, seller comes down, see if we can get the deal done. Or you can hope that the seller will come down. That's the ideal, is the seller will come down to the appraised value and we can keep moving forward, or you can walk away. And
I would say, I don't know if you agree with this, but typically what usually winds up happening is the seller has to just come down to the appraised price, at least here in Lubbock. That's kind of the standard way. Now, again, in other markets here in Texas where it's just absolutely bonkers, then sellers know they're asking too much and they're getting under contract for too much and expecting the buyer to come up. But if you're a first-time home buyer, you're strapped for cash.
Yeah.
It's just not possible sometimes. So
Right.
A lot of times in our market, I would say the vast majority of the time, the seller winds up just coming down to the appraised price. Not always, obviously, but that's typically what happens. Okay, so the appraisal, that's a good thing, buyers. That
Something to protect you.
yes, it protects you. Okay,
So, yeah.
so we're good. We're past the appraisal.
Yeah.
Now what?
Now we are ready to close. We're just waiting for it clear to close. That's usually title work, lender work, something that you probably will feel like at this point, you've been doing so much that you can kind of just sit and wait. A lot of times my buyers freak out at that point. Like, what are we doing? What do we need to be doing? Nothing. We're good. If you haven't heard anything, we're good.
Right.
No news is good news. Yeah.
For sure.
So, I don't know. I feel like, am I missing something? I feel like that's
Yeah,
the easier part.
closing is a great day. It's you
Wait
sign
for
your
closing.
life away. It takes 30, 45 minutes depending upon how many questions you ask the title company. And I always tell people, like, look, whether you understand this document or not, it doesn't matter. If you want to buy the home, you have to sign it. That's just, it is what
Well,
it
and
is.
you've seen most of it. It's just repeated 10,000 times.
Right. Which can get kind of annoying. But it's an
Yeah.
exciting day. Like,
Yeah.
it's the
official.
emotional fun day. Yeah, it's the official, like, You own a home day now. This may fly over some of your heads, but you don't actually officially own the home until the lender funds it. So sometimes you don't own it until the day after you close. And if you close on a Friday, sometimes you don't own it until a Monday.
Right.
But again, that's why you sit down with Kristen, and she will walk you through all of that. So congratulations, you closed and you own a new
home owner.
That's it. That sounds so easy.
It is easy.
when you have a great agent.
That's right.
It is easy. Ish. I mean, there's always hardships that pop up. So
sometimes.
I mean, that's kind of a simplified process. There are a million things that happen on the back end, behind the scenes. But
for the buyer, that's
right.
all they need to know.
So, and I think the first 2 steps are the most important ones. You got to sit down with your agent.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just go look at homes.
No.
That's just not a wise thing to do. And you have to get approved. Have to get approved. Sellers will not negotiate with you if you don't have a letter of approval.
No.
And you're just wasting your time at that point.
Mm-hmm. So
that's the process. We're going to shift gears here real quick, just a couple of minutes, and let's get into some misconceptions.
Okay.
And if you haven't bought a home in a while, if you're a first-time home buyer, maybe these are some things that you think this is how this works, but it really doesn't. So first and foremost, as a buyer, obviously, like as realtors, we do this for money.
Correct.
We don't just do this for free. It's not just a hobby. This is our career.
Right.
At least here at Blue, this is a career, and you got to get paid. So you're representing the buyer. Who is paying you?
The seller.
So the buyer doesn't pay you.
No.
You hear that, people of Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and our podcast peeps. The buyer does not pay the agent. At least not here at Blue. Now there are some companies that charge a buyer fee.
Right.
We do not.
Nope.
So we represent you for free.
Yes.
Like that's pretty sweet.
Yeah. We don't get paid until you close.
Right.
So.
And if it falls apart, I mean that's part of the game. But buyers, you do not pay us.
No.
We represent you for free.
Right.
The beauty of this real estate thing and buying a home. That's like the biggest misconception.
I think so. Yeah.
Buyers are confused on who pays
Not
it.
you.
Okay, what about this? I hear this a lot too, especially from newbies. Did the home pass inspection?
No.
No.
That sounds so awful. No.
None of them do.
There's not a pass or fail. Pass or fail.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist.
So what exists?
There's something wrong with the home, I'm sure.
There's always something wrong.
Always something wrong. There's going to be red or marked deficient, you know. Because what are the options? Not inspected, inspected. Deficient. That's the one that you check, you look for. I mean, if you don't find something deficient on there, I don't know if I'd believe that.
Right. So like literally every inspection report is terrifying looking. I mean, it's just pages and pages and pages of, oh my gosh, this home is falling apart.
But it's not.
It's not.
Typically, it's not.
And for the sellers too, like, I think they want to know, okay, is my home going to pass inspection?
Right.
Well, yes and no.
Right.
Like, there's no such thing as pass or fail when it comes to inspection.
Depends on the opinion of the buyer.
Absolutely. And, part of it too is getting a good inspector that's going to walk you through and be like, okay, look, this is not a big deal. I just legally have to write this up. I think one other misconception too is the home up to code?
Yes. Yeah.
People ask that a lot too. And, if it's 2 years old, then the answer is no, it's not up to code. Code changes every single year. And
that's
homes
really for new construction, right?
It is, yes. So code is for brand new homes, and like the way that Lubbock is set up is that homeowners do not have to bring a home up to quote unquote code. That is almost impossible. Right. Like you take a Melanie Park home with a 2-wire electrical system, so it's not grounded. Code is it has to be grounded, but you're literally gonna ask the homeowner to rip sheetrock off the wall and completely rewire the whole home. Like that's just not possible. That's another one. Okay, closing costs. This could, and we're kind of running out of time here, so we'll wrap this up pretty quick. But closing costs for a buyer. Can you explain the difference between closing costs and a down payment?
So the down payment's what's required to obtain the loan. Closing costs would be your lender's fees, title fees. Really, that's it. So you have lender fees like your appraisal that we were talking about, your inspection that we were talking about, title work. When the seller will pay for the title policy, but there is some title work that goes into it. So the title has to charge the buyer, and that's all part of the closing costs.
Attorney's fees.
Yes.
Doc prep fees.
Right. Recording fees.
got to pay the courthouse.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of people that make money in this. Really, the only person that doesn't get paid by the buyer is the realtor.
Right.
Which is interesting. That's just the way it works.
Right.
So closing costs are completely separate from your down payment.
Mm-hmm. And that's something I like to go over in that initial meeting too, is we kind of go through this process and I can show them on a net sheet what their down payment and closing costs would be, what they're out completely at closing, what they need to write a check for.
Yeah. And so it's not like, okay, I'm going to buy a $200,000 house, so my 3.5% down payment
And that's it.
on that is $7,000.
Right.
And that's all I have to pay. No, you got a $7,000 down
Plus.
payment plus probably another $8,000 worth of closing costs. So it's going to cost you.
And the seller has their own closing costs. I think that's another misconception, is that there's only one set of closing costs. Well, it's divided up into what the seller and the buyer pays.
Right. So each party's got their own set of closing costs as well.
Right.
Not to confuse you all, but again, this is like Kristen's hitting the nail on the head here. Like, this is why you've got to sit down and have an initial meeting about how this process works. And that's probably the most important step of the entire process. So really, we're out of time. We got some other things that we could have talked about, we could have hit on, but we don't want this thing to last forever. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kristen.
You're
Thank you very
welcome.
much. Sit down with Kristen, and for those of you who need to buy a home, she is a great resource, as is all the agents of Blue. And there's some great realtors in this city, other companies.
Absolutely.
Obviously, we're here to push ourselves. That's called business. But thanks for listening, podcast peeps. Thanks for watching on Instagram Live and Facebook and YouTube. Yeah, this was fun. We'll have to bring Kristen back on again. I think she was kind of dogging me a little bit earlier. I was asking her if she was nervous, and she was fine, but really I was the one that was nervous. So that's usually how that goes. But thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we will catch you on the next one.